word, I got rank for real. I got real soldiers kill for me, nigga. Watch yourself. They say you been in beast mode lately. You is not yourself. When you dropping that fire, precious marriage, they inquiring. They can't stop what's coming, but I see them conspiring. Cross the line, them firing. This bitch here, finna break the spin. No kindness, I don't trust you. Circle small, you can keep your features. Me and my niggas don't keep no secrets. And it feel like Jeepers Creepers. Say they want some smoke, dog. So I brought these chimney sweeps. Coming like we coming, you can't even cap. These niggas don't run it like we run it. Bitch, don't even start. Bitch, I'm with my niggas till the end, till them do us part. So if you wanna leave, you can leave, bitch. Bless your heart, find it. I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel. I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it. Got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He nice, but he don't show them skills how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got a man, circle tight, yeah, back and seal. I heard they want my life, I ain't worried. I got rate for real. Take over in effect, yeah, I'm fully focused. You might not see it on me, just know it's women, that bitch fully loaded. Ooh, yeah, we up and rolling. Told them I need major motion. Think I'm joking, I'ma school them niggas like they baby Jody. Got it out the dust, now I'm too clean, don't know why they hate me. What you want out life, dog? Guns and butter, baby boy. UPK top, dog. Certified road runner. I'ma turn that Ecoline van to a damn tank. I got choppers stashed in the attic like they Air France. They had that shit on lock till I snapped on them like bolt cutters. You cannot play both sides, gotta choose your colors. See, I'm throwing that one up with that W, that's my blood, bro. Fine here. I ain't show no mercy, I'm gonna show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel. I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it. Got it out the dust, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He nice, but he don't show them skills how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got a made, circle tight, yeah, back and seal. Said they want my life, I ain't worried. I got Ray for real.
Shalom, we're gonna get started. Salakia. First, Salakia for the tardiness. We had a little bit of technical difficulty when I started up, but Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatah, the brothers, Yahweh Shemal Atam by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, the sisters. And let's clap it up. Let's clap it up. Trooper, how you doing over there? Everything to up?
I'm to Wild by the one. How about yourself?
Yeah, everything running out of 100. Out of 100.
Okay.
And Sister Kadar, I guess you two up in there also. Okay. It's a little quiet right now. We're gonna get started. We are the ISUPK started at 1 West 125th Street under Commanding General Yohana. And I like to say, if you're not an ISUPK, you're not in the truth. And ISUPK is not affiliated with any other social Christian organization, any church group, not affiliated with any other Israelite group. So if you're not in here, you're not in the truth. So get in here and learn. And Commanding General Yohana is the man for this time. He can give you all the answers. And you don't believe it? You tune in to ISUPK and watch how we get down. What should we talk about? We talk about the current issues that's going on right now. Okay, so and that brings me to my current issues. But if there's no questions, let's give it a time for questions. I see we got someone in there. If you want to put a question in the comment, you could do that.
Salaki, if I may, one.
Go ahead, come with it.
I wanted to know, how do we explain that sex is marriage?
Good question. Now, how we explain sex is marriage is quite simple. We go back to the book of Genesis. Not only the book of Genesis, but if you think about it, right? The custom of marriage is instituted by God in the Bible. When the Most High brought Adam and Eve together, that what made that union was no documentation. When the coming together was that. So there's no documentation there. When we go to other patriarchs, let's go to Isaac. When Isaac, and it says, and I probably need to be in more depth with these verses, but I can paraphrase it. Because when Isaac got his wife, when he went into the tent, it made clearly that she became his wife. And when it's just easy. What happened is because of now Christianity and all of the laws with the Greeks and the Romans implemented after Israel was basically in charge, that we got into this custom. It's been here so long that we've gotten now into a place where you actually go into a partnership, which is because right now marriage is even still a two steps. Sex is marriage, even in the society that you're in now, even though they don't recognize sex as being holy marriage. But let me tell you this. If you were to go to in the Bahamas, this is how it is, and I think it's similar where you are. If you were to do everything, meaning get all the licenses, get your license, make your party, get your minister, your preacher, in their world, and you go and you have that day set aside, you get together on that day to the church, and the pastor or whoever it is perform this ceremony. If that happens and you do not after that time consummate that marriage, it's not a marriage. Okay, so
Oh,
that
God.
even the heathens know that sex is actually marriage, because if you don't do that, it's easy for you to go right back to the same pastor, whoever it is, and say, listen, we never consummate this marriage. You know what you can do? Okay, that marriage is null and void. You get an annulment. That's what happens there. So when you look at the scriptures, nowhere you'll see in the scriptures that any documentation was done in reference to being married. It was just when you have sex. And if you think about it, sex being marriage puts more responsibility on individuals than just when you get a piece of paper you're married. Because just getting a piece of paper and being married, people will just wait till they get the piece of paper and have as much sex as they want. This produces a very unstable and a bad society. This is what we've been seeing. So I ran on a little bit. That's what's lucky for that. But I hope I answer your question.
Oh my God. I actually have one more that kind of segues from that, if I may.
Come with it.
How do we explain how divorce works?
Well, Christ said it's quite simple how divorce works. You're not supposed to get divorced. That's how that works. And Christ said it. Because even when they questioned him, they asked, the question was about divorce, not marriage. So he said from the beginning it wasn't so. So divorce is not, you're not supposed to be getting divorced. Saving fornication, right? So if you are married and your wife, this is how it, you have to understand the scriptures clearly now. It doesn't go both ways. The scripture is clear. If a man is married to a woman and the woman have, whether she goes and have another sexual relationship with another man, that's fornication. That's grounds for divorce. Now, all the other things is not grounds for divorce. Arguments and fighting, and those are grounds for counseling. But divorce is strictly said, in the Bible what it is, except for fornication. I think it's fornication or adultery, Siraki, one of them, but they basically round to about the same thing. So that's the only way you could get divorced. Not as in the Bible where they were saying they was being divorced for everything when Moses gave them a bill of divorcement because of the hardness of their heart. Yeah, so that's not what the Most High want. He doesn't want us to get in the divorce states. I hope that answers your question, Juba.
Out the water.
I understand. Okay, so a little bit of the current events, and any other questions, just put it in the comments, and we will talk about it. But this is we really had an exciting time in our life, and I don't know if people have been actually becoming aware of the times that we're in. We're in a serious time in our life. So let me see if I could change this up. Yeah, it's lock here. Yeah, we're in a serious time in our life. In so much that so much is happening, which is actually biblical, that you need to actually look into the scriptures to see which time we are in the biblical calendar. Because the things that are going on, but before I jump into them, before I jump into these things that are going on around the world, let's just touch a little bit on, I guess, a little bit of our local current events, because the international current events is just taking up. They're just taking a hold of everything, you know. All right, so the Bahamas, we're still in our last silly season. It's getting warm up now. You know, the politicians are starting to spew all kind of stuff, whether promises and they sling mud. You know, that's going on. And we're going to talk. I mean, World War III, right? If you don't think that we're near, I don't know if you're watching things that are happening, because we are close now. Like Commander General Hannes might say, it might slow down. It might, like how it slowed down before. It might slow down, but listen, the time is just ripe. So we should be getting ready. We should be staying on our guard. The time is really, everything just seems to be falling in place. And those last few dominoes could fall in place so quickly before you know it. So I say, and as the UPK say, stay ready. You know, stay ready. We got the leader of the free world and the police. The country would want to police the whole world now and also take over the world. Try not to call their name, because you know these live they're highly censored these days. So this country just wants to go anywhere and assume whatever. Just want to take it. A story, a real life story. My grandson came to my house some years ago, and he came in the house, and he picked up. I even can't remember what it was. It was some toy, something that he saw. He picked it up. He was in a child. He was a teenager. He picked it up and he said, "Oh, that get take." He said, "Oh, that got take." That's what he said in slang. Like, "Oh, that get take," right? So he pick it up and say, "So how you can just take that? How you can just come in the house, see something on the floor, pick it up and say, 'Oh, it get take'? You can't take it just like that. You have to ask for it." But let me tell you, one of these countries today, they ain't asking nothing. All they saying, that get take. Okay, so they taking other people's property. They just they taking oil tankers, that get take. Okay, you know who I'm talking about if I don't call their name. But this is what's happening. They was planning on taking Greenland, right? But I think they put a little halt on that. They planning on taking Venezuela. They gonna just say that get take. They want next thing it can be Cuba, that get take. All of these things going on around the world. Are you watching? Are you following what's happening? Well, if you ain't following what's happening, sooner or later it's gonna hit your pocket and you can start looking, because prices are gonna be going up slowly. Okay, prices are gonna be escalating. Because when fuel goes up, everything creeps up behind it, because fuel really drives a lot of the economy. A lot of the things that you have, as Commanding General Hanna said, you know, things have to get trucked in the Bahamas. Things have to get fly in or brought in on a boat. And so it's even a little more difficult for us if and when it really breaks down into full blown disagreements and arguments and fighting. What's going to happen is we'll be the first. We'll feel it first, because everybody's going to stop moving goods out of their country and keep it in their country. So we'll definitely be feeling the effects of that. The war is still going on. People still dying. You know, from the international news, they're still dying. And I don't know if it's any end in sight. But like I said, this is just the time we're in. And the truth is, I'm really excited. I just want to see when they drop the first big thing with this make the mushroom cloud. You know, I would like to see that. That's what I want to know. Then I know it's on.
You come with that.
I know it's on. Yeah. And but they're gonna keep fighting and keep until they try to destroy the whole earth. That's all their intentions. They would like to try to do that. They're gonna usher the Most High to send Yahushua back to sort everybody out. Someone asked me how how do we correct the world? I made a sarcastic joke and say, let's kill everybody and let the Lord sort them out. You know, that's how to solve the problems. The Most High will sort everybody out, everybody get reset. And that's what's going to happen. When Yahushua comes back, everything is going to be reset. And it's just like resetting the breaker. When the breaker continues to trip out, you reset it and you get a nice flow of current going through it next time. Okay, so all right, we're going to get into our topic now. There's no questions. Again, our topic today is going to be, are there two different laws? So, I asked that question because even though some would say the law is not done away with, some also say, well, no, I wouldn't even say that. Actually, some do say that the law is done away with. So, with the ones who said that the law is done away with, I wanted to ask them the simple question, are there two laws then? Because, they say you have to keep the law of Christ, but not the law of Moses. And then you're trying to figure out, what are these people talking about? What's the difference in these laws? And they try to say, you just love. This. I don't know if you ever heard it, brother. It's just love. They're just telling you just love. And that's just love. That's
Good.
Yeah, just love. That's the law of Christ. Just love. Just love. So they don't see where they have to practically look at the laws to help them understand what to do and what not to do. They don't see that. So that's why I'm saying today is there two laws. And I want to read some of the laws, definitely. And I want to read where the laws have not been done away with. The laws have not been done away with. Those the laws that came down when Moses wrote when the Lord wrote it on the tablets and gave it to Moses, he brought it down from the mountain. Those same laws, those ones. That's the ones I'm talking about. Those same laws are still the laws that govern us today. In so much that those laws are started even from the beginning. Some of the laws was always in place. Even from we look all the way back in the Genesis account when Adam was on the earth, and Noah, we see fragments of the law being displayed all the way back there. So the law has always been in place, even though Moses come along later to receive all of the laws and be like the governing body of the laws, actually to administer the law. But we see and just before we jump into the scripture, one of these scriptures, just want to paraphrase, just to let you know that the laws have been around even before Moses' day. One quick example. In the ark, they took clean and unclean animals. How did they know animals was clean and unclean? You know why they know? They knew because of the law. Simple. The law has always been around. And even if you go all the way back to the account in Genesis, the whole idea was, what was sacrifice? And why was one thing sacrificed over another? The law all the way back then, we can see the law in action all the way in the beginning. So the law has always been in place. Now, what we have is people that are saying that the law is basically done away with, because they have to be saying that because we don't seem to know or understand what the law is. So let us go to some of these scriptures and look at them. We're going to talk about the law and how the law has not been done away with. And there's only one law. And when I say one law, I'm referring to the laws that were instituted in the time of Moses, which as they come through the scriptures, some 613, which does not all apply to anybody. So even though through our ignorance we used to say initially, I keep the whole 613 laws, but you wouldn't keep the 613 law because all wouldn't apply to you. And so those ones that apply to you, that's what you keep. And so this is what we keep the law. But again, some laws apply to females, some apply to farmers, some apply to different people. You wouldn't keep those laws if you don't fit in those categories. So that means you don't keep all of them, but all the laws that you're supposed to keep, you keep. And if there's any laws you don't keep, there's an explanation why. Okay? If you talk about sacrifice, Christ being our last sacrifice, so we don't have to do all the sacrificial laws anymore because Christ is our sacrifice. Fine. Okay? So now I want somebody to, I really would, Trooper, I'm over here just challenging everybody. Nobody wants to fight, nobody wants to battle. It's like, listen, let's just get it. I'm just, how the Rottweilers be foaming at them out because they're so angry, that's ready to get in a fight. That's how it feels sometimes.
Okay.
But nobody wants to really talk about the scriptures because they know that they don't have the full understanding. Can you go to the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and verse 17? Just you get it, just go ahead and read it, Trooper. Baba Kasha.
Okay.
And yeah.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, in verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
As I speak, see if you could get the definition of fulfill.
Okay.
Yeah. Baba Kasha. So Christ said, he came not, you see, and a lot of times we really don't appreciate the words that are used because we are so accustomed in our own lives using words that we really don't think the words are important. So we use all sorts of words to make our points. But you have to understand the scriptures, the prophets, the writers, the scribes, they're using the words that they want to use. They're not using, like when I was doing the word study, they're not using the word best, his cousin. They're using the best words for that time. And so when we get these words, we need to understand what these words mean. Now I know in the Matthew 5 and 17, where it talks about you got it, Juba?
Okay.
Go ahead and read the definition.
This is the definition of fulfill. Fulfill means to carry out a duty, satisfy a requirement, or bring a desire or promise to completion.
Okay. So now nowhere, I know through indoctrination we seem to think that seemed to say it is finished and you don't see it no more. All right. Now I'd like one of the other definitions where it actually, I think it was a synonym. Do you see any synonyms there?
Similes?
Yeah.
I don't see any on this, but I can find some.
Okay. Because I saw when I did the research, I saw one of the synonyms was like to carry it out, so we see that the law, and if, let's just say, if you misunderstand that definition and think that definition means that you do not have to do any law anymore, let's just say for a split second, that's how you that is what that means. Are you then saying that? And I'm just saying this, as a learning tool. Are you then saying that all of the laws, we don't have to keep them anymore? You have to think about the implications, what you're going to say if you're going to take that position. Because our position is that the laws are not done away with. Christ did not come to change the law. Christ, even though Christ came to basically to perfect the law, to help you to give you a second chance, to put the law in your heart, basically. Not to do away with the law. Because he said he didn't do it away.
So lucky, I have a few synonyms or similes if I may.
Come with it, Trooper.
Kamikaze. So a few of them here are execute, accomplish, meet, realize, implement, perform, and satisfy.
Yeah. So water. So I like implement, you know, that there. So it doesn't speak anything about discontinuing. That's my point. My point is that the law is not discontinued once Christ came on the scene. Christ didn't do anything other than what the Father told him to do. So if the Most High told, and I trying to speak for the Christians, you know, the Most High told Yahushua what to do, definitely he is following orders. I know the Christians don't understand that. But he said he didn't do anything of himself. That's facts. He didn't do anything of himself. So even these laws that were in place, he just carried the laws that were in place. He didn't come and generate no new laws. And when we try to generate these new laws, what do you do with the laws? What do you do with the basic laws? What do you do with them? Do you also erase those laws? Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Do you also erase those laws when you say that Christ did away with the laws? And that's the question you have to have in your mind and your heart. If you're going to say that Christ did away with the laws, how do you put that against thou shalt not steal? Somebody said that, well, if you think that that's not breaking the law, I need to steal something from you. Okay, but that law is definitely, all of those laws are still in place. And Christ said which law was not in place any longer, and he said the laws would speak about him and this and the sacrificial part of it. Okay, go to keep reading on right in Matthew 5 and go down to 18 and 19.
Oh God.
I'll wait till you get it.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Okay. Now, and let me tell you, these things, when you come into ISUPK and come into the truth and start to understand, these things are not always so easy because of your years of misunderstanding the simple scriptures. And so when you see these things, you have all kind of questions. Sometimes you just can't take it because it just goes against what you were taught for years. All right. So this is Christ speaking. And so he's saying that until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law. Okay? Will in no wise pass from the law until all be fulfilled. So, and if you look up, you see the heaven and you stand on the earth. So the earth and the heaven remains. And as long as they're here, this law can be in place. And if you think about it, it must be in place. Even though more than half, I guess, most of the planet is breaking the laws, but it's still in place. Even though it's not respected, it's still in place. Okay, go right ahead and continue, Juba.
Okay. Verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
You know, that hardly don't even need a breakdown, because the thing is, and I know people are afraid of this type of teaching, where they could come on and they could ask a question and the scriptures are being read to them. They don't like that. You know what they like? They like for somebody to say something to them and spark their emotions, and they run through the church and kick down the chair and jump over the pew and all of these things and start gyrating their bodies. They don't want to understand the scriptures. But this scripture is telling you Whosoever therefore, and check this out. This scripture is so heavy. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these, and this is what it's saying, the least. If you look at a commandment to consider it to be the least, what it's saying, if you break the least commandment, and then it also telling you, if you don't, not only if you break it, but if you should also teach men so. If you teach men to break it. So if you stand on the pulpit, if you're teaching men, and you're not teaching men that they're supposed to be upholding, keeping, and being perfect like their Father in heaven is perfect, if you're not teaching them that, you're teaching them to be the least in the kingdom. All right? Because it's saying, he shall be called. If you teach men to break the least of the commandment, if you break them and teach men so, then you shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But again, but whosoever shall do and teach them, whosoever shall do all the commandments, and whosoever shall teach all the commandments, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. I know that doesn't line up with what's in your mind. I realize that it doesn't line up with what's in your mind, but this is the truth. And what you must do is empty everything out in your mind, which was indoctrinated into your mind through Christianity and whatever other, well, we call every other thing Christianity. Yes, it's all. If you are a Bobo Shanti, if you was a Rasta, if you was a Catholic, if you was an Anglican, you're a Baptist, whatever you are, we just call them all Christianity. Okay? So you need to get out of them and get in here. And you'll start learning this pure word. Yep, I understand it's not going to be easy, because when the truth is right before your face, sometimes it's just too simple to understand. Okay, so we can reinforce, because this scripture is the heaviest, but we can reinforce this. Matthew chapter 19 and verse 17. Baba Kasha.
Okay. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 17. And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments.
Okay. So this is no different commandments that you will be asked to keep. And if it's a different commandments but you've been asked to keep, you tell me what are the different commandments. You tell me which ones are of the other commandments that you do not have to keep. That's what. Or even better yet, tell me which one of the commandments that I cannot keep. You know, I ask people that question, and they it's impossible for them to answer me. Right? I just tell them, tell me which commandments I cannot keep. Just tell me one. If you think it's impossible to keep them, then you tell me which one I cannot keep. And when you put that right before their face, they realize that, listen, if this brother say he could keep them, he must he could keep them, or else I'm prepared to tell him he's a liar. And also I'm prepared to find evidence to show him where he lied. But if I don't, then I have to kind of go with him. And so this is what's happening, right? So, and he said unto him, the part of this is, if you want to enter into life, if you want to do the right things, keeping the commandments for the Israelites, and I'm going to say this to you, keeping the commandments actually causes you to become very strong. This is your spiritual exercise. You want to become strong. You want to be able to fight off any demon. You want to be able to resist the devil. That's what you do. That's how you do it. You keep the commandments. You keep the commandments when you're all by yourself. You keep the commandments when there's nobody else around. You keep the commandments when, even if you do something no physical or earthly person will see, and you have the ability to do or to not do, When you do that, and you're all alone, only you one there. Even in my early life, and I mean, even in before I came into the truth, I was one that I really tried as I seek the Most High, ignorantly, I must say, but I wanted to do things the best I could at all times, and not be a two-faced person, and not be a hypocrite. And so, coming into the truth, it actually gave me the ability to do that, to not be a hypocrite. But it's hard to be in the Christian church and not be a hypocrite. Okay, it seemed to come in the territory. So, but if you want to enter into life, as in Matthew 19 and 17, the solution is quite easy. Just keep the commandments. Now, I know you're going to say that. People that watch this and say, I can't keep the commandments. You tell me which commandment you can't keep. That's what I would like to know. Now, I'm going to debunk one of these things even before you say it. If you don't know it's sin, if you do not know it's sin, you're an intelligent person, you've been in church. If you don't know it, if you don't think what you're doing is a sin, I'm gonna go down a limb this far and say it's not a sin. I'm gonna go down a limb because I sure you know when them wicked things you're doing, I sure you know when they sin. So I'm saying if you're doing something and you say, man, this ain't no, I don't think this is a sin. You know something? It's probably not a sin. But I know you know when you do them wicked things, you know when you're sinning. So I'm saying that to say there's no argument. You cannot give me an argument to say that you might sin and not know. No. You will not sin and not know. You know what is sin and you know what is not sin. You ain't just, I do that as a sin. No. When you're doing that, you can know, yep, I'm sinning. You're going to know, okay? So, unless you think you could sin, but
Salakia, sir.
come with it, sis.
Okay. Well, I have been in the Christian church up until
You got some noise in your background.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you turn the noise down though? If possible.
Yes. Okay. What I wanted to say is that I have been in the Christian church up until very recently. And I have always been told you sin in thought, word, and in deed. How do you explain that?
I don't want to put you on the spot, but since you brought the question.
Well, I don't want to go on the spot if I don't have to.
All right, let me try to answer without putting you on the spot. Okay, thought, word, and deed. Okay, you could sin in thought because Christ say, if you look on a woman, you look on another, and this is how we break it down. You look on another man's wife, you with lust in your heart, then you could sin. I am saying to you that you know when you're doing that. That's my point. My point is that you know when you're not okay. So you sin in thought because you're thinking it, but you know. I know now. If I look at a sister and she's married, if I look at it with lust, with a lustful purpose in my heart, that is a sin right then. I am saying I don't have to do it. That's my point. I don't have to do that. So thought, that's your thought. Word, now, what they're saying, you could say a word that caused you to sin. Okay, let's deal with that. You could say a word would cause you to sin, but when you say a word, that word comes through your brain and then out your mouth. So when that word in your brain, all I'm saying is don't let it come out your mouth. That's the word. And the thing is, people don't practice to follow the scriptures. They will say what you've been told is to try and get you to the position to say, I cannot live without sinning. That's what they're trying to convince you. Okay, so whatever deed you would act, whatever act you act out, I'm saying you could sin according to your deed. I'm just saying, when let's say, as you prepare to do that deed, you know that deed is a sin. That's my position. You know that deed is a sin. So if you know that deed is a sin, yes, you could sin in thought, word, and deed. But all I'm saying is, when you sin in your thought, you know what is a sin even in your thoughts. When you think it, I'm not going to be caught in sin in thought. Because I mean, it's simple. You look at a woman and say, listen, anything even if you look at something, and let's just say, if you consider coveting, all right, coveting, if you think coveting, a man coveting another man's wife, that could be looked at it that way. And even if you look at things in your own life. If you look at something, you know you're not supposed to be coveting. So the simple thing is, just don't covet. That's all. It ain't that serious. You know when it is. You know when you cross over from just. I know when I cross over from just admiring somebody to trying to figure out how I can make a date to see them. I know when I cross over from that to the next thing. All I'm saying is, don't cross over. And so your deeds, the deeds are the things you do, right? So I think we cover. So in your deeds, again, you know what things you're not supposed to do. Very few people get into some malicious act. Let's just say they go inside the store, they put something in their pocket. As they walk out the door, they realize, I'm stealing this thing. No, you know you were stealing it when you put it in your pocket, right? And that's
Um,
why.
I had an incident like that. I was at the cashier and I was holding a candy bar,
Uh-huh.
and I started to walk out the store with it.
Right.
But I did turn back,
Uh-huh.
and I asked the cashier to ring it up. But I was
Uh-huh.
holding it. I had completely forgotten it. So had
Uh-huh.
I walked out with that, not realizing what that wouldn't have been a sin, would it?
If you would accidentally walk over the candy bar, I mean, I get counsel on it, but I wouldn't think that would have been a sin. You know, sometimes you walking around, you rest a candy bar in your pocket. If that wasn't your intentions at all, like I said earlier, you know what a sin is when you're committing it, and the things that you don't know is a sin is not a sin. So that's one of the same things you would say. Well, you put the candy bar in your pocket without a thought. So that when you get out and you get home, you say, man, I get this candy bar. Oh, I got into hell, because I carry a candy bar at the store. Okay, no, 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 don't work like that. But when you was in that store, if you say, man, listen, I want 2 candy bar, I only get a fourth one. Let me slip this candy bar in my pocket because I know ain't nobody see me. That's where your sin come in. Okay, you good with that?
Can.
Okay, so these commandments and laws must be followed, and they are not that difficult. The thing is, where people make the laws difficult is where they made their whole lives difficult. That's what happens. Um, let's just say a fella live his life by stealing, right? And you can tell him thou shalt not steal. The nigga stealing every day, right? He's stealing every day. So he built his life around sin. So he gonna have a much difficult time to get out of that. But normally people do not build their lives around sin. They don't normally do that. Now, especially where we are here, I'm saying locally, we got shoot. Yeah, everybody's a Christian in the Bahamas. Okay. Everybody's a Christian in the Bahamas. They have adopted some religion that they hold to ignorantly, but they hold fast to them. Okay. So everybody has had some spiritual enlightenment and some understanding of right and wrong. So we just got to get the truth. Let's see if we can get these other few scriptures in. 1 John 2, chapter 2, verse 3 through 5. Baba Kashar.
Abakar. Salaki. This is the book of 1 John chapter 2, verse 3. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. Verse 4. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Verse 5. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him.
God. Tawadisha. I mean, trooper. So, 1 John 2. 1 John chapter 2. You know, and hereby we do know that we know him. You see, people don't think about this. The scriptures say, I'm paraphrasing, show me your faith by your works. So how are you going to show? The only way you could see somebody's faith is by what they do. It's what they do, and if you keep the commandments, that's an action. That's what you do. If you keep the commandments, then we know that's when you know him, right? Because he that said, I know him, and keep it not his commandment. If you say we say, oh, we know the Lord. If you know the Lord, you know the Hawashai, you know the Most High, then what you doing? You're not keeping the commandments. You're lying. That's what the Bible say. That's what the Bible say. The Bible say, he that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar. And not only are you a liar, and the truth is not in you. So anyone who's not keeping the commandments, you could just outright say that. Boy, I don't know if y'all say that but the Benjamites here, one of the words that I think is consistent with the with the Bahamian vernacular. I don't think I've heard any other 12 tribes say this one word, boy. Okay? I think you spell it B-U-I or B-U-I-E. And that's one of the words. If we hear anybody around the whole earth say that, they originated in the Bahamas. Because that seems to be a Bahamian word. We got a couple of words that seem to be, but we also have some of the words that seem to be common with some of the tribes in the Bahamas and the Americas. I've noticed that too. But we do have a couple that seem to be only used here. But the thing is, he that saith that he know him and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. The truth ain't in you. If you just going around and not keeping the commandments, because see, it's so easy to see the commandments, to see if you're keeping them or not. All right, it's so easy to see if you're keeping them. Are you observing the Sabbath day? Are you stealing? Now, it may be a little difficult to see everybody. You ain't gonna see everybody killing, right? Even when unaliving, you might not see that. But the thing is, the least commandments, some of the small commandments, what is difficult to see, if you're close to other people, you will see exactly how they act and how they operate, and you will know whether they're keeping the commandments or not. Let's go to Romans chapter 6 and 1.
Okay.
Baba Shah.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 6 and verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound?
Now, we're talking about keeping the commandments. We're talking about, is there some different commandments? Are there 2 commandments? No. Now, this is simply saying, if you continue in sin, grace is a measure put in there so that you do not have to sin. You have the ability to get out of sin in this grace period. So while this grace period is on, you have the ability to recognize the sin that you're in and get yourself out. Okay, get out. If you have built a life, if you have built a life, think about people who build their lives around wickedness. Because of grace, you have the time to turn your life around and get out of the wickedness. Whatever you do, let's say, people who are addicted to cigarettes, you have the time to turn, because grace is still active. Everybody might can stop cold turkey. You may not be able to. This grace gives you the ability to cut down, and stop. Whatever you're doing. That's what this grace is in place for. But it says, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin? So if you come to the truth and know that smoking cigarette is a sin, will you continue in sin that grace may abound? This grace is supposed to continue to carry you on and on and on. Where you get this grace, you're supposed to be reducing. If you smoke 10 cigarettes a day, the next day you're supposed to drop down to 5. The next day you're supposed to drop down to 2.5. The next day you're supposed to drop down to 1. The day after you're supposed to stop while the grace is there. But not that you keep at your 10 and say, man, I am the grace. that ain't right. That definitely can't be right. That's not what grace is all about. Grace is giving us the opportunity to do something, to change, without having a penalty attached to us. And if you don't, the consequences of sin sometimes still follow you. I'm saying that to say, I know I told this before. I had a friend, a farming friend of mine, who apparently he was a chain smoker when he was younger. I never knew him to be a smoker. As he taught me a lot of my farming techniques. So he got lung cancer. He already gone on to his reward, by the way. He already transitioned out. So I said to him, I said, man, I never knew you to be a smoker. He said to me, when I was younger, what I did, he said, when I had one cigarette in my mouth, before I finished that, I lit it with the other one. That's how much he smoked. Before that cigarette went out, he got a new cigarette and lighted with the cigarette that's going out and keep the cigarette in the smoke. That's how he smoked. So I said that to say, that's the consequences of your sin. So let's just say, if you was living a life that you're going to have the consequences of your sin come up anyway, that comes up. That may be the thing that causes you to transition out. But on the other hand, that grace is still there so that you could stop that action. And who knows? The Most High might actually heal you and not let you die of that stupidness what you did when you were younger. Who knows? Anyway, we're almost there. Let's move on a little further. We're still in the same Romans 6. Just go to the 15th verse.
Okay. This is the book of Romans, chapter 6 and verse 15. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace?
Okay.
God forbid. Oh, Salah.
Go ahead, Salah. Yeah, I didn't see that part.
Right. But under grace, God forbid.
Yeah, so again, this is telling you, you're under grace. But because you're under grace, do not use that as an occasion to continue in sin. That grace is so that you would not continue in sin. That grace is for you to tone down, get rid of whatever you need to, make whatever changes you need to make in your life as soon as you can. Make whatever retribution, contribution, whatever you need to do, you do that as soon as you can, so that you can now follow and keep all the commandments. So you don't all the law, as this is saying here. Okay, so go to 1 John 3 and 4. We are coming down to the end now.
This is the book of 1 John, chapter 3, and verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law.
Can't do. Now, sometimes we try to figure, so what is a sin? This telling you what is a sin. If you didn't know, this is why you have to understand that you cannot do away with the law. Because you need to understand what is a sin. How are you going to understand what is a sin? You're not the person who put the sin in place. The Most High was the one who said, you do this as a sin. And if you don't do that, it's not a sin. So you have to understand what the Most High is saying is a sin. And what this scripture is telling you is quite plain. Whosoever committed sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. So whenever you transgress the law, that is when you sin. What is the law? The law is written out for you. If there's anything in that law that applies to you and you don't do it, it's a sin. That's it. It's so simple. It's so practical that the religions make such a big thing about it and make it so mystical. They make it seem like it's only the people can understand this because it's so spiritual, but it's so practical. Read the scriptures and understand it. Do not sin. That's it. Don't break the law. You break the law, you sin. That's why they confuses you. They tell you, oh, the law is done away with. How the law could be done away with? And that's the same thing which you have to use to determine whether you're sinning or not, is the law. All right. So like here. I'm not running kind of on, but in the scriptures. Yeah. So we're going to get down to 1 John 5 and 3. Just read when you get it.
This is the book of 1 John, chapter 5, and verse 3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous.
It can. For this is the love of God. This is the love of God. How do you show God you love him? This is what it's telling you. You want to show God you love him? You want the Lord to know? You want the Most High to know that you love him? This is how you do it. You keep his commandments. You know why? You know why you keep his commandments and how? Because his commandments are not grievous. They're not that difficult. Like I said, tell me one of the commandments that you cannot keep. They're all keepable. All right? They're not that difficult. You could keep all of them. So that's so I'm going to clip it right about there. All I'm going to encourage you, keep the commandments. If you don't know what a sin is, whenever you transgress the law, that is a sin. If you didn't transgress the law, it is not a sin. So it's easy not to sin. Just understand what the law is and keep the law. And with that, I pass the class over to Trooper Magawan.
Okay. These are the ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for a new brother or sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There are another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18 and 21 in Malachi 3, 8 through 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations. We have the 57th annual Passover coming up this year in Houston, Texas. Be there. It is not optional. And with that, men of Israel, Haimajim. We will now render a salute to the brothers, men of Israel, Haimajim Shabbat, Haimajim, Barak, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Barakadam. There was a Patah, Sar, meaning turn and face the sisters. We will now render a salute to the sisters, men of Israel, Haimajim Shabbat, Haimajim, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alatan Bashem Yahweh Shai.
Yahweh Shema Al-Tamad Yeshua Hai.
And with that, class is dismissed. Shalom.
Tawada, Akim, Anakwadim, and Shalom.